All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show. I'm Gregg Cohen, and I am here with an incredible guest who I will introduce in just a second. The person who is not here, unfortunately, is Pablo, our good friend and my co-host. So we wish him, he is doing some really big things for his business at the moment. We wish him well. And you guys know what that means. Every once in a while, I get to host the show by myself. And you know what? Sometimes it's like the blind leading the blind. Sometimes I need a lot of help from all of you today. So as we start out the show today, guess what? I'm not going to be perfect. I'm going to do the best I can. And the best way for you to help this whole show be super valuable is to take part in it and to be a part of the chat and to be a part of asking incredible questions. So thank you all in advance for being here. I do want to say a special welcome to Madison the Magnificent, our MTM community leader over there. Say hi, Madison.
Hi, everybody.
And without further ado, I want to say a quick hello to our guest. Thomas Vickers joins us. When you get to hear Thomas's story, you're going to be blown away. Thomas has been a client of ours for many years. He is a traveling physical therapist. He invests in real estate. His family has been investing in real estate for quite a number of years, and just some incredible insights to share with us all today. So Thomas, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, I'm so excited to be here. I've been kind of stalking JWB since about 2014, but I didn't officially become a client until 2021, 2022. I can never keep track. It feels like it's been a while now because you guys are so awesome. But yeah, we're super excited to be here.
Well, Thomas and I just had a chance to chat for, the 20, 30 minutes before the show. I don't think there was a dull moment. I think I was on the edge of my seat hearing his story personally. And so I'm excited to share it with you. No joke, when he was telling me a part of his story, the hairs on my arm were starting to stand up. And I get to do this show every Tuesday and Thursday, and that doesn't always happen. So you guys are in for a real treat. I do want to make mention for those of us who are joining us on the podcast and the future in podcast land, guess what? We love that you are joining and listening to the podcast. It's incredible to be able to listen on the go. But guess what? There's a better place to come and watch the show, and it's here in our Zoom meetings. And that's where you get to actually be a part of the chat. You get to be a part of the story, and you get to do that. It's for free. You can do that by going to NYAIS.com, NYAIS.com. Go there. We'll send you a free registration link. You can join the party, and you can join the show live, which happens every Tuesday and Thursday at 12:30 Eastern. And when you get to do that, you get to be a part of something. Thomas, do you have any idea what you get to be a part of?
No, sir. What do we get to be a part of?
The roll call, baby. Are you ready?
Woo, roll call. Shout out those special fans, man. The repeat guests. That's the only way the show keeps going is by having an engaged audience that keeps showing up.
And so Thomas, you've watched the show a few times, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It tends to get a little boring if it's just the two old guys there just chit chatting. So you got to have some engagement.
They're certainly not coming to the show for me. I can tell you that. Maybe for Pablo.
No, sir.
But they're certainly coming for me. The show is all about the community. And so we have some incredible folks in our community who are here. I'll tell you guys, our audience has grown. I ran the numbers not too long ago. It's grown over 40% just in the last few months. And so super big thank you for you all continuing to be here and for giving us such a great job that we get to do every single Tuesday and Thursday for being a part of the show. So we're going to recognize some of those folks. And if you're one of those people who I would call lurkers, who you're one of those, call it 150 folks who show up live here, but you maybe haven't actually said something in the chat, let me encourage you to do that so that we can recognize you. You know what? Maybe you'll even get a nickname. You never know. So first off, we've got our leadoff hitter, John Heading, saying hello. We've got the MVP of the Not Your Average Investor community, Mr. Lee Bishop, in the house. We have the maven of real estate from Denver, Colorado, Miss Leslie Wilson. We have Leo Faraganan, dun 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 dun, Faraganan, dun 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 dun. We've got my buddy D-Hob. D-Hob is a friend of mine for 20 plus years and a client of ours as well. D-Hob, I didn't know you were going to be here, bud. Good to see you. Good to see you, my friend. We've got the Shaw man, Nadeem Shaw, saying his trademark, good morning, good afternoon, JWB family. Hope everything is well. We've got Lita Song. She says, hello, beautiful investor from Minnesota. We've got the first family of the Not Your Average Investor show, Ken and Carolyn Moline. We salute you. Thank you all for being here. We've got the mama bear, Cody Adams, saying hello. It's good to see you, Cody. Let's see who we've got here. Got man, we've got Pamela Myers saying hello. She's from the Seattle area. We've got, let's see here, man, what a great roll call. We've got the early bird, Dean Curry, saying hello. Good to see you, Dean. And let's see, have we encouraged any of those lurkers to say hello? Maybe some new folks coming up here. Oh, we've got Aaron O'Neill into the light, past star of the show. Aaron O'Neill, you did incredible last Thursday, Aaron. Thank you for being here. And wow, what an incredible roll call that we have here. So thank you all for being. We got Hervé Francois from Jersey saying hello to the JWB fam. And man, what an incredible roll call today. You guys are in for a treat. Thomas, when we were talking before the show, I always try to take some notes right before the show. And here's my notes, man. It is like full of notes right here. It's on both sides here. I was just trying to write down all of the really cool things that I think our show will get a lot of value out of. But why don't we just kind of set the scene? Thomas, you're a traveling physical therapist. You're a medical professional. And you made the decision to invest in real estate over a number of other options. And you lead your life in an incredible way. We can certainly talk about the background in your video right now. I want you to share your story about that background and logistically how you live. But I want to get into a lot more as far as your mindset as well. So why don't you just kind of set the stage a little bit, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and maybe what got you down this path of investing in real estate here in Jacksonville with JWB.
Well, first off, I just want to say thank you for letting me be a part of the show in this community, because that's really the main point. I was born in Jacksonville, grew up in Jacksonville, went to UNF for undergrad, went to UNF for grad school. So I'm a Jacksonville local through and through. So I love any small business that is engaged in the community. And again, my first exposure to JWB was 2014. And now you guys have evolved from this little small business operation to this powerhouse force that's driving the direction of the future of our city. And so I don't know, big fan of the local stuff.
Thank you so much, bud.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So like Greg said, I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I went to undergrad at UNF, got my degree in athletic training. I was working out of high school with, the football team, soccer team, stuff like that. And then I went back to school 2018 to get my doctorate in physical therapy. And then in 2021, I graduated during COVID, and that was terrible. And I was working at the hospital, spent a long time in the hospital on the COVID ICU, on the respiratory unit. And it was not super fun. Our first daughter was born in October of 2021, and we're still working at the hospital. And she got COVID 11 weeks old. And so our newborn had like 105 fever. We were in the emergency room running all sorts of tests. I mean, it was super scary. And because I was a new grad and had just started, I didn't have any time off. So I was still having to work while daughter was in the hospital. And it was a nightmare. And so me and my wife, we decided, COVID's crazy right now. We don't know. At that point, there was no end in sight. Nobody knew how long the quarantine was going to go on. So we made a huge life pivot. We moved into a camper and went on the road, full-time RV life. So I got a big diesel truck, and we had a 38-foot fifth wheel. And we did travel healthcare contracts on more rural settings because we wanted to, try to maybe limit our exposure a little bit if possible. So we ended up in Lake City, Florida, which is terrible. We moved up a rung to Paducah, Kentucky. I don't know if anybody here is from the Four Rivers region there in Paducah. We were out there, and then we went over to Columbia, South Carolina. And while we were in Columbia, South Carolina, we found out we're having baby girl number 2. And we said, holy smokes, we're having two kids, 2 and under, in a camper. No way. My wife said, we're moving out, or you're going to keep traveling on your own. So we pulled the eject handle, and we're now in Tampa, Florida. There's water everywhere in Tampa. So I'm just out here at a random park out here in Tampa. And I'm now a home health therapist. So I go to people's houses, do therapy. My flexible hours, the pay is good, works for the family. So that's kind of where I'm at now in the professional sense.
That is incredible. First of all, thank you so much for your service when our country and our world needed you, especially helping with COVID. Amazing to hear that both of your daughters are doing well. So that is awesome. I got to ask though, this whole idea of living in a camper with your beautiful wife and 2 kids under the age of 2, like, what was that like? I know that's not what this show is about, but what was that like?
We spent a lot of time outside and I got the better end of the deal because I got to leave and go to work. My wife did not get so lucky.
How long did that last?
So we made it 15 months. We made it 15 months
Yeah.
full time in the camper. My wife was a kindergarten teacher for 7-8 years. And so she loves kids. We both love kids. So she was okay with it. It was so special, being young professionals. We were looking at, we were going to have to be a 2-income house anyways. And so we didn't love, sending our daughter to daycare. So kind of the COVID factors, the financial incentives, being able to, take care of our daughter, kind of motivated our to go on the road.
Fantastic. Well, that is an incredible story. And I bet something that, you just look at it and as we talk more about your story, there's so many things that people probably said, you can't do that. You can't do that. And I know you've broken through a number of those barriers, and that's an incredible one right there. Let's talk about your real estate journey. Tell everybody a little bit about maybe your family's background. I know they started to invest, I think back in 2006, or at least started to buy real estate in 2006, and take people through that journey, maybe about how your family made investment decisions or how they made those decisions, back in the day till now. Now you let everybody know how many properties you own and your mindset about that.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So we're all here for real estate. So I'll get to cut to the chase. So I'm the oldest of 6 kids and we're 20 years apart. So I'm 30. My youngest sibling is only 11. So we have a pretty widespread of kids there.
Mm-hmm.
And so my family, housing and finances have always been a little bit of gymnastics, just the logistics of having that many kids and sports and school and, things like that. A lot of my parents' friends, 2004 to 2006, got in on the new construction craze. And if you're familiar with Jacksonville, up towards the airport, the, Duval Station Road, Sterrett, Pulaski, all that, just the River City Marketplace was under construction, hadn't been built. Now it's a monster place now. But back then it was, there was only Walmart in the movie theater back then. And so we had a couple of friends, they bought a house, they lived in it for a little bit, they sold it, they made $50,000. Another of our friends did that. They made $80,000. My family was like, oh man, this sounds like a great plan. So they built a new construction house in October 2006. We moved in. We were like, wow, this house is great. We're going to look for our next one to move out. And well, then we all know the Great Recession came and hammered everyone.
Right.
And suddenly my parents' plan was rapidly dismantled. And of course, they had an adjustable rate mortgage that was going to recalculate, and the home was worth, they put in $185,000 to build the house. And so their options were going to be, okay, do we just live here? Do we move out and take the loss? Like what are we going to do here? So kind of what they opted to do was we bought a house for our family off of a short sale at a great price because foreclosures were everywhere. 2-story in-ground pool, great for the big family. And they opted to keep that home as a rental property from 2009. And in fact, it is still in our portfolio now. And we just moved it into management with JWB last fall. And just similar to Gregg's story, Gregg shared his story a bunch of times. He says young Gregg bought the house, and then even when it was the worst time to buy, and then it dropped in value, and then over a long enough time horizon, it's come back because short-term pricing is your least important factor for, your long-term real estate goals. And so my family was like, okay, well, if we just rent it a little more than the mortgage and we'll just kind of wait and see what happens, hopefully it'll, go back up in price. So just snapshot numbers, that house, 185,000, 2006, it dropped. I don't even know how low it dropped, really low. And then now it's worth, $385,000. We got that historic Jacksonville appreciation. I think Gregg 4.2% over time. So we've captured that in that property. Rents for $2,000 a month, covers the mortgage, rocking and rolling there.
Let's just take a minute there because
go ahead.
Let's just take a minute there because
sorry, that was a lot of info.
Well, but it's such an incredible point, right? It is rare to be able to speak to an investor who has lived, call it the worst case scenario in rental property investing. I've lived
exactly
because I invested in 2006 and I bought 40 rental properties, and I know what the worst case scenario looks like. And you have too, Thomas. And what we both have seen is in real estate, specifically in rental properties, in a growth market like Jacksonville, it's hard to lose if you buy and hold. So 2006 was, call it 17 years ago. Over the long haul, even though we had that big dip in the Great Recession when it came to prices, over time, prices rebounded even more than that. And at the end of the day, for a full market cycle, we've seen, call it right around 4.5% home price appreciation year over year. And that's a really important point for everybody out there, because guess what's going to happen over the next 20 years? The same end result is going to happen somewhere around, call it 4.5% home price appreciation. So awesome point, Thomas. I wanted to make sure I fully solidified that, because that is a basic tenet of how you win in rental property investing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. The quicker you can get off of cash flow and get off of short-term pricing and have that long-term horizon, then like that's how you win, that's how you scale, and that's how you win like over a long enough time.
How did you get to that point? Did you always know? It seems like you fully understand all 5 profit centers. What was it for you that helped you shift away from more of a normal kind of average mindset, which is all about short-term cash flows and all about short-term pricing?
Oh man, I'd say it was a lot of things. So we can kind of go back into the story and kind of, I think it'll kind of fill in the gap there. So we had this one rental property in the background. My family, we moved into our new house. Things were going good. My parents had a new baby in 2012. We had baby number 6 came, and baby number 6 was 11 weeks old. And we found out our dad had cancer. At that time, my dad was 40 years old, dad of 6 kids with the newborn, and he had cancer. Just a little bit of background on our situation there. My dad was working for Bank of America, trading all his time for money, no assets, no nothing. His 401k, he had $25,000, $17,000 in credit card debt. His annual gross salary was $68,000. Of course, adjusting for inflation, $68,000 back then wasn't terrible, like it would be now, but that's not a lot of money for 6 kids. And then he found out he had cancer, and a year and a half later, he died. He died at 41. This month is 10 years, October 2013, 10 years this month. And I think a really, really important thing that when we're thinking about life and investments and retirement is we got to kind of rewind a little bit, and we can talk about the numbers and the nitty gritty and the spreadsheets and the we can talk about all those things, but it's really important to know your mindset and what's your why, what's your goals. And so we kind of, in America especially, we go to middle school to go to high school, go to high school to go to college, go to college to get the job, you work the job to get a house, you get the house, you work it, you retire, 65 is your golden years. We have this like railroad, and we just assume that you're going to get old and be able to retire. And the fact is, that's not the case. I got an exposure at a very, very young age. I was 19 when my dad died, that tomorrow is not guaranteed. And so being in a 40-hour-a-week job is extremely risky. If you're just trading all your time for money, you're missing out on life now. And so you have to, we're biased towards real estate, JWB, us, we love real estate. You have to have assets that are going to produce for you so you can get your time back, because time is the only resource that is truly non-renewable, and you can never get it back. And so that experience has profoundly shaped me and changed the trajectory of my life of where I'm as a person. And now that I'm operating in healthcare, working with, elderly folks, 60, 70, 80, I mean, these people, you got cancer, strokes, heart attacks, and like just assuming that you're just going to enjoy retirement is very foolish. I think in this country, a lot of people need to wake up, especially my generation, the 25 to 35. We got to wake up and realize like it is not guaranteed. And so kind of from that, going through that experience, my dad luckily had life insurance money. So we got a chunk of life insurance money. And again, my family, not educated. I graduated college. My sister graduated college as a nurse, but nobody else in our extended family, cousins, uncles, nobody knows anything about investing at all. So stocks, bonds, annuities, all that stuff, completely foreign. We had no idea what to do with the life insurance money. But because we had that rental property from 2009, 2013, so we'd had it for 4 years, and we were like, okay, this real estate, we can touch it, we can hold it. There's one global stock market that you have no control over, and all the forces control it. But real estate, it's very, very regional. It's very focused. And if you know the area, you can kind of juice your money a little bit because you can improve the property. You can make it better. You can know what neighborhoods are good, what schools are good. And so you can kind of have an advantage for selecting your asset. And so over the next few years, spent a lot of time reading and studying and learning and networking. From 2016, 2017, I think I listened to 25 to 30 audiobooks. So really the 2 biggest ones that like set the anchor of that long-term time horizon were The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, with the strategy of buy $1 million, own $1 million, cash flow $1 million. And then And then there was another book called Buy and Hold, Buy and Hold. And so those two books, I've listened to a lot of books, but those two ones like really like stuck out in my mind. I was like, okay, this makes sense. Like a long time horizon. And then I was getting exposed to JWB at that time. And so you guys were preaching the same things. And I was like, okay, this kind of makes sense. And so 2017, we did a mastermind. There's a local contractor in Jacksonville, Cameron Gaskill from Suncoast Renovations. Nothing but love for Cameron. Like he's out there just flipping houses, churn. Does great at it, makes a lot of money. His course and everything we did was great. 6-month mentorship course. We learned everything we need to know about every aspect of construction of flipping a house, which has come to a huge advantage, as we've kind of done that. But I kind of layered that house flipping because I knew I was in healthcare and we're not general contractors or, you can hire it out, but we kind of put the flipping under our long-term time horizon. And so we kind of use value add. So we figure out how do we get, a distressed property, make it better to be a rental for that long-term, a long-term gain. And so yeah, so that's,
wow.
there's a lot there. I apologize.
Well, nothing to apologize for. Again, I'm writing notes. I hope everybody out there is writing some notes here because there are some serious golden nuggets here. And I see some questions already coming in. If you want to ask Thomas some questions, feel free to do that. Go ahead and do that into the Q&A. If you put it in the chat, I'm not going to be able to see it right now. So go ahead and put those into the Q&A. But Thomas, I just wrote, one of the things I wrote down here is risky. And it's really interesting to see what you view as risky versus what the average public would view as risky. You look at the 40-hour-a-week work week, trading your time for dollars as risky. And you look at buying assets as the solution to mitigate that risk. Others look at the safe, secure 40-hour-a-week job as the way to reduce risk, and they avoid buying assets because they think assets are risky. Can we just spend a couple minutes diving into that? Because that is critical.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple thoughts there. So specific to my job field, being a healthcare professional, technically it's allied health. So kind of, we're not balling out like dentists and doctors and stuff. We're allied healthcare professionals. So nursing, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, tech, stuff like that. Our jobs are 100% physically, you have to do them. Okay. I've spoken to tons of healthcare professionals that had an injury or they had an emergency situation, a sick kid, they got sick, someone in their family got sick, they herniated discs in their back, they got COVID and they couldn't move for 3 months and they were totally screwed because there is no, when you have a professional degree like that, there is no light duty. I don't even want to go down the rabbit trail of our healthcare system, but if you can't work, you can't earn. And that to me, and I think that's incredibly risky. And then kind of the other side of it is that when you're working a 40-hour work week, trading all your time for money, you only have so much time. So 168 hours a week, 24/7, 168 hours a week is the most you could possibly work. And so, even if you work 40 hours, 80 hours, that you still have a ceiling. And so you have to move away from trading your hours for dollars and you have to figure out, how do I trade my dollars for time? And so that's where, the mindset shift of like rich dad, poor dad, stop being an employee, you got to be employer mindset. And so,
it's really clear. The success traits that we see from the guest investors we get to have on the show, it's a different way of thinking. We in this Not Your Average Investor community think differently and it should be celebrated. And when I think about what I'm hearing from you, Thomas, it is thinking differently. It's understanding that what normal people call risk is actually mitigating risk, right? Going away from trading your time for dollars is actually mitigating risk. And I loved how you said, listen, we only have 168 hours in the work week. If you are thinking like that is reducing risk, that is your max income that you can earn from your active income. 168 hours times whatever you earn or your salary or whatnot. If your expenses are right there, that's risky. That's risky. The only way to break that is unless you could have an opportunity to significantly increase your income and keep your expenses down here, which many people just don't have that. They have to work a lifetime to get there. Maybe they never get there. Or you can do this while you are working, you can have enough income to offset the expenses, but you make different decisions with the money that you earn. And you take some of that and you take it over to this other bucket, and that other bucket gives you the opportunity to make money passively without your active work. At the core of it, that's what we all love, but not many people get that. So you heard some really good books from Thomas, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that we talk a lot about in this group. If you join the show regularly and you haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I'm going to jump through the Zoom meeting and just, give you one of these. Go ahead and read that book. It changed my life. It changed everybody else's life. You also mentioned the Millionaire Real Estate Investor and another book called Buy and Hold that will help you with that mindset shift. You talked a lot about how your family, not educated in stocks, bonds. There was this element that real estate is simple to understand and it's tangible and we understand and there's fundamentals. And you also mentioned how you can have an advantage in real estate over the market because of the team you work with, your experience, your knowledge in a local area. And that's celebrated. That's celebrated in the real estate world. In the stock market, that's not celebrated. You can't do that. It's called insider trading.
That'll get you in prison.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. So, in a nutshell, real estate made sense for all those reasons for you. And we haven't even talked about better returns or things of that nature. But let's talk a little bit more. I know a little bit more about your story. And let me take you down the angle of Thomas, who has these incredible success, has overcome so many obstacles, incredible things that have led to success. But you made a decision when you were getting into real estate that a lot of people make when it comes to building a rental property portfolio. You decided to self-manage, Thomas. You decided to manage your properties by yourself. Talk us through that, my friend.
Oh, geez. I know. Hopefully I'm preaching to the choir here at the JWB, community here, but self-managing is a lie. Again, Rich Dad Poor Dad is such a foundational book, and understanding this tension is something that between me and my mom that we have battled back and forth with for years. And really since 2017 until last year, she was not on board with property management. But because JWB is such a powerhouse and we can even go through, there's been 3 massive situations we've had with tenants and with properties this year that your team has gracefully resolved with 0 stress to me. And it's money's worth. I can circle back to that at the end, but again, mindset shift. So Rich Dad Poor Dad. So the token question is, would you rather make $1,000 doing something, or would you rather make $100 doing nothing? The answer is always $100 doing nothing, because you can scale that 10 times without increasing your time commitment. And so when you think about real estate, the whole point of real estate is to scale. Getting one property is great, but once you get a taste, you understand, okay, I got to keep doing this to compound those gains over time. And so you can't do it all yourself. If you fall for the lie that you're going to self-manage, you're going to build yourself a job, which is the opposite of what you're trying to do. One of my favorite quotes, I heard it a couple months ago. It said, poor people trade their time to save money, and wealthy people trade their money to save time. And I think that very succinctly puts why should you hire a property manager? Just from a philosophy mindset perspective. Now, of course, of the nitty gritty day to day, having a property manager reduces your stress as a landlord. So specifically for us, we shifted 3 of our properties into JWB over the course of a year and a half as the leases rolled up, and then we moved them in because we moved into the camper and went on the road. So I was going to be out of state, living in a camper. I don't know if I'm going to have cell service, Wi-Fi. I don't know where we're going to be. I don't know what my time commitments at my job are going to be. So I said, I literally cannot self-manage. That would be, again, risky. What's your tolerance for risk? That would be extremely risky. Something breaks, I'm unavailable. That'd be catastrophic. So that's why we rolled our properties into JWB. So I could go out and I could do my healthcare job, 40-hour work week, to make a good income. And then in the background, have these assets, benefiting me. For the people that say, hey, I want to keep more cash flow. I don't want to pay 10% a month. I don't want to lose my tenant placement fee, all those kinds of things. You guys preach it here, but short-term pricing and cash flow of your 5 profit centers, short-term pricing and cash flow are low on the totem pole because you're shooting for the long-term gains from appreciation. We already touched on that. So the people that are trying to fall for the trap, I'm going to save $100 a month. It's like, who cares? Okay, that's, $1,200 a year over 10 years, 10 grand. Your appreciation, you should get that much appreciation in 1 or 2 years, to buy it back. So that's number one. Number two is pricing for rent. So pricing for rent is super, super important, because if you move from, so you have a house, $1,000 a month in rent, and you think it can rent for $1,100. Simple numbers, it's not realistic. Please don't burn me in the chat. But you're cash flowing $100, right? Okay, so if the actual market rent is $1,200 and you increase the rent to $1,200, you say, okay, I'm moving it from $1,100 to $1,200. I'm gaining $100 a month, or I'm increasing it, 9% or whatever. That's not correct. You're doubling your cash flow from $100 a month to $200 a month. So it's a 100% gain on your cash flow. So by having JWB, you guys have, if I'm rounding, you guys have close to 4 million properties in Jacksonville, right? So you're over 5,000. Are you at 6 yet?
We're close. We should be pretty close by the end of the year. Close to 6,000.
Yeah. So by having close to 6,000 doors in Jacksonville's huge. You guys have such good data on, if we price it here, it's going to rent for this. This is how long and you guys have a waiting list of tenants, and you guys screen tenants, you have your 2-year leases. So you guys having that data that with one house, I don't have. I don't have any market projections off of one house. So you guys have huge advantage, in that sense. And then furthermore is vacancy. Nothing kills your returns faster than vacancy. So if you price a house too high and it sits 45, 60, 65 days, you're burning 8, 16, 15% of your profit, because it's vacant. Mm-hmm. Whereas you put it with JWB, they price it right. They have a waiting list of tenants. They market the heck out of it, and you get a tenant. I think I know last year, I think your average market to lease signing was like 14 days, and then move in was like 21. I think it bumped up to like 40 days, something like that. I know you have all the numbers, but 40 days or less from market to move in that's phenomenal. That keeps more money in your pocket.
It's all about driving the value. I just keep saying to myself, everything that you're saying, it comes down to value. And when people can make decisions based on value rather than price, they're going to be in a better position. The challenge is people ask price first. So, and they don't understand value many times until it's too late, when they made a decision solely on price and didn't get the value. But let's talk openly. You had the chance to I'm sure, interview or make the decision to go with a number of other property management companies in Jacksonville.
We just hired you straight up.
Oh, you did? Well, all right. Well, then that kills my question. But if you did, what you would find out is that others charge less for a tenant placement fee. Some charge significantly less for a monthly management fee. What was it about us that you didn't even have to ask those other questions and, made you see the value in a JWB relationship over the alternative?
Yeah. So initially, obviously, we first, got exposed to you guys back in 2014. So I kind of been following along with, the different podcast shows. You guys have presentations, at JWB and stuff like that. And so I knew what you guys were doing. And the thing that really sold me was, you said, when I was watching it, we'd already moved into the camper. So it must have been in 2020, end of 2021, maybe. You guys had gotten the question. I think you guys were kind of at a fork in the road. Are you guys going to add more markets, or are you going to stay in Jacksonville? And you said, no, we're going to pick one market and go super deep. And we're just committed to Jacksonville and the vision of Jacksonville. And we're just going to focus on Jacksonville. And I said, sold. Just having focus and discipline as a business is something that is important to me. And so you guys being local, being focused on just one market, and then the way you guys structure your team, you leverage technology in a way that is phenomenal with the Salesforce and all the technology you guys use. So that when I call JWB, even if my portfolio manager, it's Caitlin, we love Caitlin. She's incredible, has walked us through some scary stuff. But even if Caitlin's unavailable, anyone on the team can log into our properties and give us the scoop of whatever the issue is. And I love that. It is super, super helpful for day-to-day operations stuff.
What a joy to just hear you speak, Thomas. It's really awesome. When I think about the type of relationship we want to have with the client, this is it. And we got to see something just in the same vein with Aaron O'Neill, who was here last Thursday, and all of our guest investors. You guys get to see this. This is not just a transaction when we get to bring a client on board. It's so much more than that. It's that relationship. And we hope to serve our clients for decades. And this is what it looks like and feels like to serve a client, hopefully for decades here. All right, I want to take it down.
So just piggybacking on that. Sorry, last thing to add, just piggybacking on that of just like real estate is a long game. Your property manager should also be a long game. So you don't want a property manager that you're worried in 5 years is going to go out of business. Clearly, you guys are established. You're growing. You guys are doing amazing things. So that, it's like getting married. It's like a relationship that we're building this together over, a long time. Just circling back to those personal touches and how you treat clients. We just had our new baby girl. She's 6 weeks old. She was born 4 weeks early. I was in the NICU for 26 days. And Caitlin, we were dealing with some other stuff. And so I was sharing with her what was going on. And just out of a, kind gesture at JWB, they sent us a DoorDash gift card to help us get meals while our daughter was in the hospital. And that was super, super awesome. We've really, really, really appreciated that. We're not just a number on a spreadsheet, that even though you guys have, close to $4 million now, that that you guys are really trying to have that personal relationship with each and every client. And so I really hope, I hope everybody, I'm sure everyone's having that same experience.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a credit to Caitlin. Caitlin on our team and everybody on our team, we're trained to seek out those opportunities. We call them moments of truth, right? When you have the opportunity to do something really special for somebody that may be in a time of need and maybe in a time that something needs to be celebrated. But as a business, you don't have to be perfect. But if you could just look for those moments of truth and just do something, even if it's relatively small, to show that you care beyond just whatever the transaction is. I mean, those are the things that people talk about. And that's how you get referrals, and that's how you get repeat business. And, people tend to think building a business is a super complicated thing, which parts of it are, but some of it are so simple. It's just like looking for an opportunity to make somebody's day, and then just doing that and training and bringing great people on, just like Caitlin, who think that same way. So I'm really glad that she saw that opportunity for you. And that, of course, it helps to reinforce how much we care about you and your family.
Yeah, man, I was blown away. I was like, man, this is amazing. So big fan.
Yeah.
And then, so just a little bit of nitty gritty. It's not all sunshine and roses being a landlord. You don't just buy a house and then you're a millionaire and, in the Bahamas. So we had some, kind of big issues with our tenants and properties this year that JWB has beautifully handled. Number one, on the Bonaparte house that my parents had since 2009, put them property management, and the tenant started to fall behind on payments, and then they got the 3-day notice, and then they paid, then they were caught up, and then they stopped paying. And so we were and then we officially had to file an eviction on the tenant, which sucks. You guys have a super low eviction rate. I think it was 3% even during COVID.
Right.
Your guys' rent collected and your eviction rate is insanely low. And so I was like, oh no, I don't want to ding their numbers. Let's get this good. And so we had really good communication between the team and the tenant, between me and the team of kind of the situation. And the eviction process is very, very litigious. And there's very, very, very specific steps you have to follow, or you as the landlord are going to be in the hot seat. So a lot of people say, oh, I'm just going to go over there and change the locks. And it's like, oh my gosh, no, you absolutely, even though Florida is very landlord friendly, if you don't pay, you don't stay, but there's a lot of steps. And if you don't have an experienced property manager that's done this a lot of times, you are opening yourself up again to a lot of risk. And so they were able to follow the steps, keep me informed. And then, at the last minute, the tenant paid up all their dues. So they couldn't afford a $2,000 a month rent, but then they suddenly paid $7,000 to get everything current. So it's kind of a weird situation, but that was the power of having a good property manager that knew the correct steps and made sure there's no time delay. Because if they had waited 1 month to file the eviction papers, well, then that kicks the can down another month that I'm losing rent to pay the mortgage. So that swift action was just perfect. The second one, we had a shipping container at a rental property. The city cited us, and JWB, they do a lot of new construction. So you guys are best friends with the city inspectors and permit people. And so you guys were able to figure that out, get the shipping container removed. And, I didn't get any fines or anything. That was super helpful. And then we just had a tenant move out with no warning. They called and said, "Hey, we're out of the house,"
Mm.
which is pretty crazy. And so we had to do a turn on the property, and JWB sent me an estimate. I approved it over email, made my contribution, and you guys had it turned and back on market in 7 days, which
Wow.
was freaking nuts. Y'all painted the whole house and did the yard. And so, anyways, so those
Fantastic.
3 things were like more like nitty gritty. This is what a property manager does for you.
So do you have anything that we screwed up? Because you have been incredibly positive this entire time. People are going to think that I paid you to be on this show. What's the worst thing that we've done? What could we get better at?
So my experience with JWB is I had the houses and then moved them into management with you. So I've not been a client on the turnkey, buying a turnkey property.
Mm-hmm.
Last summer, we were trying to figure that out before we purchased another property last October, and then that's property number 3 in the portfolio, San Salvador there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were shopping for houses, and we were trying to figure out with you guys. And unfortunately, I think we got a team member that maybe wasn't clear, not as good as communication as we were used to.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the ways they were presenting the houses and the deals didn't quite line up with like what the actual spreadsheet numbers were. And so there's a little bit of confusion there, but I communicated it to the team, and you guys handled it. And a couple months later, that person didn't work for JWB anymore.
Okay.
So I don't, I don't know what the full situation was there.
Way to go, Thomas. You got you got him fired, Thomas. Way to go. I'm just joking.
Oh no, no.
I'm just joking. I'm totally joking.
But I think, I think that's just a
I think
that was just a miscommunication and employee situation. I don't think that was not reflective of the whole business.
Well, you know what? We're not perfect. And so I appreciate you being willing to have me put you on the hot seat and dig and dig and dig for the things that we don't do well. And you know what? We're not perfect. So, I'm sure we learned from that. But man, so many good things here. We got a couple of questions I'm going to fire your way. And if anybody would like to ask any questions to Thomas or to me, take advantage of the time that you have today, go ahead and put those in the Q&A. This has just been really, really incredible here. So Thomas, the first question's from the MVP, Mr. Lee Bishop. And Lee, I'm gonna paraphrase your question a little bit. He asked a question about seeing your siblings and your mom struggle with money, I would imagine right after the death of your father. And, asking questions about how did you work to support them through that and support your family through that? Maybe how really, I think for me, coming from understanding your mindset right now, which is just spot on. It's just incredible. And it's clear to see how you're successful now and are going to be an incredible success as you progress. How did you develop this mindset? When did you develop this mindset? What was like the trigger for you to just develop this type of mindset? So that's half of Lee's question, half of mine.
So just in perspective, 10 years ago, 2013, when my dad passed, I was only 19 years old. So I was not able to generate enough income to support the whole family. Luckily, this is a little bit like global risk management. This is a little outside the scope of the JWB podcast. But when you die and you have minors, kids, obviously you're not going to draw your Social Security when you're old because you're dead. Your surviving spouse can draw on your Social Security. And then your surviving spouse can draw on your Social Security because they're taking care of your dependents, your minors. So my mom, since 2013 until now, and it goes until your youngest child is 16. And then when your youngest child turns 16, they cut off the dependent Social Security. And my sister is now 11. So we still have, 4.5 more years to figure that out to replace that lost income. And so my mom's income did not go all the way to zero. She did have, I think they recalculate it every year. I do not recall exactly. Was it initially? It was like, I think it was like $48,000, maybe like $41,000 off Social Security. And that income is tax-free because it's like death benefit Social Security. So it's different. And then because all that income is tax-free, that puts my mom in a very favorable, tax bracket for our structuring of our LLCs. We have a family partnership with Schedule K. Half the income goes on my mom, half the income goes on me. So my mom can soak a ton of capital gains and rental income because her taxable income basically starts at zero. So she's a very high ceiling, again, profits number 3, tax savings and depreciation, all that good stuff. And so my mom was able to have that Social Security as a cushion. And then of course the life insurance money came through. And unfortunately, she was using that principal to live on from 2013 to 2017. Not a lot. She was just, it
Right.
was
What
supplementing
you
the
gotta do.
income. Just, a single mom with a baby. She was not able to go back to work at that time. And then of course that rental property we had out by the airport that had some cash flow. I think it was cash flowing like $400, $450 a month gross. We didn't know anything about vacancies and reserves back then. So it was probably only like $100 actual profit. And so that kind of allowed us some breathing room to where we didn't have to make any hasty decisions off of that point. And so I use real estate to help take care of my mom and my siblings would be kind of the short answer there.
Just incredible. I mean, it's incredible, I'm so sorry for the loss of your father, but just incredible to hear how you have used an experience like that, which many people would, it would be very tough to take anything positive, from that, but you have chosen to take something positive as far as the mindset that has resulted. And that's really something that's really special. So, wow, incredible. All right. We got another question for you. This is from Raj Bantu. What is your primary criteria to buy long-term hold properties, Thomas?
Oh man, that's a tricky one. So one of the big things about real estate is having clearly defined buy box and kind of what your financing situation is going to look like so that when those deals come into your buy box, you can act quickly. Obviously, our criteria has evolved from 2017 to current because obviously the market has evolved.
Right.
To put it lightly, the market has evolved. So again, our general philosophy is we target a little bit more expensive properties to try to maximize those appreciation gains. So simple numbers, if you have a $100,000 house that goes up 4.5%, historical Jacksonville appreciation, you capture $4,500 a year. If you have a $200,000 house, 4.5%, that's $9,000 a year. So by doubling the value of the asset, you double those appreciation returns over time.
Mm-hmm.
So our properties range, market, rough market value, the Zestimate on our properties, our cheapest one is like 150,000. That rents for $1,100 a month. So that one, our primary goal there is cash flow. It's cash owned. There's no leverage on it. So we just have taxes, property insurance, JWB on our expense sheet, and then our vacancy and reserves. And that one's our primary cash flow that kind of covers all the expenses for the business and all that stuff. And then the house out by the airport is our most expensive property, market value probably $350, $380, and it's renting for $2,000 a month. So some investors would say, oh my gosh, $2,000 a month on 380, your NOI, your cap rate is, so low and that's terrible. But it just depends on what game you're playing. If you're going for cash flow, then you need to buy the $100,000 MLK 32209 house and rent it out for $800 a month. But if you're paying the long-term appreciation game, you got to get a little bit nicer houses to kind of get those long-term gains. Again, I'm biased for those long-term houses because the depreciation you can capture, you can count back half that to qualify for your next loan. So I don't have my calculator handy, but so if that house, I think we put again, this is getting in the weeds a little. Is this helpful or is this not helpful?
I think it's great.
Okay. All right. So if you have a $100,000 house and you depreciate it over 29.5 years, you can't count the land. So, $150,000, it's maybe 3%, it's like 3.3% a year. What are those numbers?
You're talking about how much you can write off each year?
Yeah, for depreciation, because it's 100% of the value over 29.5 years.
Yeah.
It's like 3% or something. So
Right.
basically 1.5% of that value, you can count back to help you qualify for your next loan. So you buy 5 houses and you just gain back 7% more like paper income that the underwriter will let you qualify for your next loan.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
exactly. So if you buy a $100,000 house and you're depreciating $3,000 a year, $2,000 a year, okay, the underwriter will say, okay, you can get back $1,000 a year. Okay, that's not going to move the needle month. But if you have a $400,000 house and you're getting to count back, $8,000 a year, okay, well, that can really move the needle on your DTI, your loan to value. Again, it depends if you're doing it If you're doing it in your personal or your LLC, there's a lot of variables, but
let's just go back to where we started here. If we associate what you understand as risk and how to overcome that risk, you look at risk as the daily 9 to 5, income matching expenses and having no way to change that rat race. And the way that you overcome that is you buy assets that then give you your time back. So if we now put all this together, this thing that Thomas is talking about how you're able to use this asset to qualify to buy a future asset. This is where you see the mindset coming into action here. And, most people would look at buying something and not think about how that's going to help you buy another asset, whether that's buying a rental property and help you buy another rental property or what have you. But you can see this. Thomas is thinking about, how do I build an army of income producing assets? Because that army of income producing assets equates to time ownership. And that's what he's in search of. You haven't heard him talk about being a millionaire, a billionaire, or whatnot. It's time ownership, right? That's what it comes down to, right?
Exactly. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You spot it. Exactly. Yeah. So you can play the cash flow game, and you can play like the appreciation to stack them over time. I mean, it just depends. And there's no one size fits all. That's the other cool thing that's amazing about real estate. If you invest in stock, there's one market. Yes, there's different ways to play, but philosophically, there's really only one. You got to buy the stocks or buy option contracts. But in real estate, there's so many different ways to approach it. And anyways, a lot of different approaches depending on what your goals are.
All right, Thomas. Well, we have a few minutes left for the show. We've got a couple more questions, but first I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to find out more about you, and it's the Real Network. Tell everybody a little bit about the Real Network.
Yeah. So obviously my real estate journey has a lot of different pieces, the death of my dad, being in healthcare, travel contracts. So there's like a lot of different pieces. And so I was just trying to figure out, okay, how do I share this experience and with other people to help them kind of start their journey? Because it's hard. The hardest jump is to get someone from 0 to 1. Mm-hmm. It's like the journey from 0 to 1 is like this long, and then 1 to 2 is like this long.
Yep.
And so I think the average investor spends like 2 to 3 years learning about real estate before they pull the trigger on that first deal. And so my kind of goal is, how do I shorten that for specifically healthcare people? And healthcare people specifically, because our job is very labor intensive and very much transactional, we don't know anything about sales and scale and hands off and passive. And it's very much an employee, clinician, implementation mindset. And so my goal is to try to get the attention, wake these people up and say, no, you need to buy assets. Quit trading your time. You need to buy assets. And so literally this year, so maybe 7 months ago, just started, making content, recording podcasts, making videos, drawing out terrible sketches about the 5 profit centers, just to kind of help people. And so my brand, I went through a lot of iterations, but the one I stuck with was the Real Network, REAHL, Real Estate and Healthcare Leadership Network. And so I'm just trying to find healthcare providers that are investors and kind of link them up in a community of people that are trying to figure out how to get started. And kind of the lowest barrier for entry with the smallest amount of capital and least amount of money is doing a house hack. So you move in, you get primary owner occupied financing, which is advantage, a lower down payment, which is great. And then you fix it up, you live there, you move out, and you keep it as a rental. So move out, rent behind. And that's the easiest way to get, that's, in my opinion, that's the lowest amount of capital and the shortest path to getting from 0 to 1. And then kind of once you get 1, then hopefully you're addicted, and then you hire JWB to be your property manager and keep stacking properties.
And then you're the next guest investor on the Not Your Average Investor show.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
We've had a bunch of questions that have come in here at the end, and that always happens. So thank you all for sending those questions in.
Bro, it's all good. I love questions.
All right.
Any piece of my because when I was, so this was 2017, so I was 24, 25. So I was like young Greg. I mean, some of this stuff was accessible, but I was overwhelmed. That was the biggest thing, man. If you go on Amazon, you type in real estate for books.
Good luck reading all those.
I was so overwhelmed. And so my my objective is try to take everything that I've learned and been exposed to and experienced and try to distill it down to like make it a little bit more simple. Anyways, yeah. So I love questions. So what do we got?
Well, you just do it in a way that's really personable and authentic and genuine. So I'm glad we have more folks that are teaching and educating and building community that are built like you. All right. So we got a couple of questions here. Joyce Tessman, which is a new name. Joyce, thank you so much for being a part of the show and for firing a question in. Joyce says, I'm out of state. Thomas, do you recommend investing in rental properties for someone who does not live in your area? Are there any downsides when using, she says, your service? I'm wondering if she means Real Network or if I'm wondering if she means JWB. So we'll take it from there.
Yeah. So that is the number one biggest beginner mistake that people do in real estate is location bias. So they figure, hey, I live here, so I'm going to buy property here. And then that kind of goes down the rabbit trail of, okay, well, if I bought it here, well, now I'm going to drive over there and paint the walls. Oh, if I painted the walls, well, now I'll just be the property manager. Why do I need a property manager? And so honestly, I think that doing out of area minimum, but definitely out of state is a great way to very firmly break that mindset, because you literally can't self-manage and you literally can't drive over there and paint the walls and cut the grass because it's out of area. So it immediately forces you to be creative. Constraint drives innovation. So if you constrain yourself that I'm not investing here, I'm investing somewhere else, then you immediately have to start thinking in these new ways, which is ultimately the way that builds success. So I got very lucky because I lived in Jacksonville and invested in Jacksonville. Jacksonville turned out to be a good market. So I got lucky. But now, like moving down here to Tampa, if I grew up here in Tampa and I was to invest in Tampa, holy smokes, I'd be priced out. I mean,
right.
Not so good house in a not great area, it starts at like 300,000 down here. I mean, your barrier to entry, like for capital, is so high that finding a market like Jacksonville, you have your Florida pricing, and I know we were way below. I know we're catching back up to like average Florida pricing, but we're still undervalued. I know that's one of your arguments for the.
Still less expensive than Tampa, Orlando, and Miami.
Oh my God, yeah, yep, I'm here. I know.
Yeah,
but so my short answer would be yes. Going out of state, it forces you to run your business like a business from day one, and not just build yourself another job.
Yeah. And I wonder why there's this magnetic attraction that in real estate, if you think about it from an investment perspective, that we somehow have to be close to it. If you realize where you're spending your money or where you're investing your money elsewhere, you don't have this magnetic attraction to like be next to it and to like be forced to solve the problems that come along with that. You hire incredible people and they produce a return on investment for you. So break the bonds that make you think that real estate should be different. Hire the best team in the best market, and then go be successful. That's what we would say.
Exactly. If you buy stocks at Amazon, you don't open up your laptop in the morning and answer customer service, complaints about 1-star reviews or where's my pack. Like, no, like if you're an investor, like be an investor, be a business owner. Don't. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So last question for you, and I'll just answer a couple of the other ones here before we get to the last one. Lee Bishop asked about the advantages of buying properties from JWB and the discounts that you get when you get to 5 properties and 10 properties. So we do get discounts. That is for folks that actually buy the assets from us. So turnkey clients. So Thomas is not a turnkey client as he continues to build his portfolio with us. We're going to love that. But if you're a turnkey client like Lee is, and you get to 5 properties that you purchased from JWB and we do the management, we drop your property management fees down to 9%. And when you get to 10 properties that are purchased through JWB, we drop you down from 9% to 8% property management fees. So Lee, thanks for the opportunity to do the quick plug there. BJ McKay asked real quick, Thomas, are you done RV traveling? I think the answer is yes, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are now in Tampa and we are going to be here we'll be here for a little while.
Sounds like you got your hands full.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Two kids under 2. I was there. I don't know. Yeah. I was
there. That was busy.
Pretty, never a dull moment, but no camper for right now.
Ronald Thwing says, And first of all, thank you, Ronald, for asking a question, for being here, for stepping outside of the shadows and not being a lurker anymore. We appreciate you. He asked, is the Real Network on YouTube? Why don't you tell everybody how they can find the Real Network and be a part of it?
Yeah, yes, sir. So so our website is BeReal.com, Be Real. On Instagram, we're the Real Network, REAHL Network. And then we have a podcast on Spotify, and kind of specific for the healthcare community, especially physical therapists, is we're graduating school with an average of $140,000 to $180,000 in student loans. And then the average salary for a PT is like $70,000. So those numbers just don't work great. And if your strategy, there's some people that their strategy is they're going to rely on the government and Uncle Sam to help them forgive or pay down or whatever their loans. And I don't know. Every single student loan policy right now is signed into order by executive action, not passed by Congress. So every single plan can change at any moment. And we just experienced that just now. The plans that President Obama wrote in, President Biden just changed them all up. And so again, back to risk. What is risky? If you're relying on Uncle Sam to help you get rid of your student loans, I think that's super risky. So we're trying to help people, use real estate to pay off student loans, because you can get the monthly cash flow to pay your monthly payment. And then you can build that asset value over time to hopefully sell it and then pay off the principal balance of your loans down the road. So that's kind of what, I don't know, that's kind of what we're trying to do.
People need you, brother. People need you. This way of thinking can help millions and millions and millions of people. So I hope folks go and check out the Real Network. First of all, I want to say thank you to you, Thomas, for being here, for being so open, honest, authentic, transparent. Thank you for sharing, some of the challenges that you went through to get to where you are. Man, I find your story so inspiring. So really, really excited to have you here as a guest, and we'll keep the seat warm for you. We're going to have you back on sometime in the future too.
Yes, sir. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Our pleasure. And thank you to everybody here for being on the show. We had over 50 people were here, registered, attending live, asking questions. I mean, this is not like, Tuesday night at 9:00, right? This is the middle of the day. Sometimes it's in the morning, depending on where you are in the country. And you all show up every single Tuesday and Thursday. And I know it's not because you come here for me. It's because you come here for the guests that we have, like Thomas, and you come here for all of you. It's the community. It's the chat that is just rapid firing. Thank you all for being such a big part of this. Thanks for asking great questions. Thanks for helping me get through this with Pablo not being here. It is truly never lost on us that you spend your time and make this community what it is. If you're listening on the podcast, I encourage you to join live. Once you come in here live, you're going to stick, because it's fun, it's valuable, and you make great friendships. So come here live. Just go to NYAIS.com for NotYourAverageInvestorShow.com and join us on the next live audience here. Go and check out the Real Network at BeReal.com. Did I get that right, Thomas?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
BeReahl.com. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes,
go
sir.
check that out. Wow. So thankful to all of you. Looking forward to next week. Pablo will be back in the house. I am going on business planning. So I am going to be locked in a room for next week, putting the business plans together for JWB for the next 1 to 3 years. Excited to share all of that with you when I come back from that. But before we do that, one thing that I'm going to ask of you, the Madison's going to ask of you, that Thomas is going to ask of you, that Pablo would ask of you if he were here. He said, until next time, don't be average. Thank you, everybody.